What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Bracketology update. Now, there aren't going to be any picks in this video. Sorry if that burst your bubble, but I did move almost every team around. It had been a fat minute since I had updated all the teams. The first Bracketology was, I think, the day before the regular season started on November 7th. It's now November 23rd. There's been quite a few games, and we're going to go through all the teams, who's gone up, who's gone down, and where's your favorite team? We'll get to that. We'll get to all of that because there's been plenty of great games, and there's one today. Arizona and Creighton in the Maui Championship. I want to watch that game. I might stream the end of that game. We'll have to see, but let's just run through some of the most notable games from the start of the season. The first day, we actually had quite a few upsets. Oklahoma, USC, and Florida State all losing to lower-rated teams like Florida Gulf Coast, Sam Houston State, and Stetson. Louisville lost to Bellarmine. Louisville's also like 0-5, 0-6. Oregon lost to UC Irvine. Villanova lost to Temple. Tennessee lost to Colorado. Wyoming lost to Southeast Louisiana. TCU lost to Northwestern State. Florida lost to Florida Atlantic. Now, I've gotten information in the past that I'm too hard on teams when they lose. Like, a team will lose one game and I'll drop them too far. I try to not drop teams as far, but there were some teams that were falling. Let's talk about the teams that have fallen off the most. And for me, the one team that has fallen off the most is that team right there, TCU. I'm very disappointed in TCU. Losing to Northwestern State, Northwestern State, they're not a good team. Oh, they got Hansel Emmanuel, the dude with one arm. Does he even play? I'm not even sure if he plays. I'm not trying to be an asshole or anything, but did he get any minutes that game? Let's take a look at the box score. How's our dude Hansel Emmanuel doing? He only got in the game for 2 minutes, so a little disappointing there. But nonetheless, it's not just that TCU lost to Northwestern State, who's rated as one of the worst teams in college basketball. They damn near lost to Arkansas Pine Bluff. An Arkansas Pine Bluff team that has one win. They got blown out by Cleveland State, blown out by Kent State, and they beat them by 1. This was a fight. Arkansas Pine Bluff actually having the lead for the majority of this game. TCU squeaks it out by 1. They did beat UL Monroe by 35, but I'm very concerned with a team that I had going to the Elite 8. I had to be real hard on TCU. I dropped them from a 4 to a 10 seed. Who else? Wyoming, I dropped to a 10. They are without one of their best players, Graham Ike. We'll see when he gets back. Who else fell? Dayton. Dayton had a really bad loss to UNLV, and they just lost to Wisconsin about 30 minutes ago. Who else suffered a pretty bad loss? Ooh, this team. Gonzaga, my goodness, got their asses whooped by Texas. That game was not... Do we want to talk about that game? That game was not even close. A very hyped up game that was between Gonzaga and Texas. Hyped up game, both teams in the top 10, or Texas was 11. And I picked Texas to win. I did not think Texas would beat them by 19. That game was a complete blowout of biblical proportions. That was kind of an embarrassing loss for Gonzaga. I still have them at a 2 because what they did do is they beat Michigan State on the aircraft carrier game. That was before they played Texas, and then after they played Texas, they played Kentucky and beat them pretty bad. You want to talk about a team that has been falling? It's Kentucky. They have had a rough start to the year because that's not the only loss. In the Champions Classic, they lost to Michigan State. If you don't know, Michigan State, Kentucky, Kansas, and Duke all play every year. They play one of them in the Champions Classic, and Kentucky played Michigan State in a game they were projected to blow them out by. Kentucky favored by 7 in that game. Michigan State winning that one in double overtime. That was a terrific game. As for the other game, Duke and Kansas, Kansas ended up winning that one by 4. I have them at a 1 seed. I had them at a 2. I moved them up to a 1. Duke, where's Duke? I had Duke at a 2, and I moved them down to a 3. I'm not gonna completely throw those teams through the floor. So yeah, that's basically who fell. Oh, who else? What is this? Michigan. Michigan got, wow, beat down by Arizona State. This game was a rout. From the moment the game started, too. Arizona State was up 29-10. 7 minutes into the game, they win 87-62. For a team that was ranked, very disappointing from Michigan, and also because of the ass whooping they put on them, I added Arizona State to the bracketology. They're looking like a strong team. They did lose to Texas Southern in overtime, which was pretty bad. But hey, they put a whooping on Michigan, so they did enough, I think, to put themselves in the bracket. Who does Michigan have coming up next? Who do they play next? They play Jackson State today, but who do they play next in the Big Ten ACC Challenge? They play our highest rising team. Let's talk about the team. Let's talk about the teams that are rising. Virginia. Definitely the biggest, definitely the team that has come up the most. I in the preseason, I did not think Virginia was that good. I'm like, I'm not a big believer in Virginia. They were, I think, like in the low tiers of being ranked, but I think I put them at an 8 seed. And I'm just like, I don't think they're that good of a team. Well, what have they done? They beat NC Central and Monmouth. Whoopity-doo. They had their game against Northern Iowa canceled. Then they go into it's called the main event. I don't really know what it is. So they have a match, so I think it was like there was some tournament in Las Vegas. It was 4 teams. It was Baylor, UCLA, Illinois, and Virginia. 4 very strong teams. And Virginia played Baylor, and Illinois played UCLA, and the winners would play each other, the losers would play each other. Virginia came out their first game against Baylor and handled them pretty easily, 86-79. It was all Virginia. Virginia was actually up as much as 22 in this game. Baylor had a stretch. Listen to this. Baylor had a stretch from 2 minutes left in the first to 10. They had a 12-minute stretch where they scored 7 points. So in that stretch, the win probability skyrocketing for Virginia. Baylor did try their damnedest in a comeback effort. Got the game pretty close near the end, but it wasn't enough. Virginia wins this one. And I had Baylor and Kansas were actually tied in their rankings at 5. I had Baylor at a 1 seed, Kansas at a 2. And I took the liberty of moving Kansas up to the 1 and Baylor down to the 2. As for the other game in that tournament, Illinois and UCLA, and a game I thought UCLA would win pretty easily, they did not. Illinois actually beat them in comeback fashion. They were down pretty big at one point, 41-29. Illinois turned on the Jets. They were looking pretty good. So then it was time for the winners to play each other, Illinois and Virginia. And Virginia, once again, handled business and took down Illinois in a close defensive style game, which, if you don't know, is the type of style Virginia likes to play. They like to suffocate you with defense. So, good win for Virginia. And then as for UCLA playing Baylor, Baylor took this one 80-75 in a game that was really close all the way throughout. So UCLA kind of got, so Virginia, obviously the highest riser from that. I took the liberty of moving Illinois up a little bit. I think I had them at about a 4 or 5, moved them up to a 3. UCLA kind of getting the short end of the stick. They were the one that suffered the 2 losses, but they're both close losses to good teams. I had them at a 2. I took them down to a 4. I don't think I'd be too concerned if I was a UCLA fan, but yeah, you would like to win one of those 2. So yeah, that's where I have them going. Who else? Who else is rising the ranks? How about my school? Indiana? Well, they beat 2 nobodies. They beat Morehead State and Bethune-Cookman, and I'm like, oh, it's just 2 nobodies. But then you realize there are a lot of pretty good teams out there playing nobodies and struggling hard. So there's that. And then they went out on the road to play Xavier. Great game, 2-point game. They end up beating Xavier, and they're still undefeated. I have them at a 2 seed. I definitely think they're playing very well. They do have a date with North Carolina in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. I'm going to be at that game. I really hope North Carolina does not lose before that game. By the way, should we talk about the nation's #1 team? I think we probably should. How's North Carolina doing? Well, they're doing. They beat UNC Wilmington. They beat Charleston, which, by the way, Charleston beat Virginia Tech and has been beating some very good teams. So I did add Charleston to the tournament. I think they're definitely a pretty good team. But North Carolina did beat them, and then they beat James Madison and Gardner Webb. But they're not very good against. Here's one thing I have to say. This guy came out with a stat: how good are teams against the spread? IU is 4-0 against the spread. Houston's 5-0. Every top 25 team's record against the spread. UNC is 1-3 against the spread. Cause for concern? I don't know. I don't know. Who do they have coming up? They play Portland in the Phil Knight Invitational. I forget what other teams are playing in that. There are some other good teams playing in that. Let's see. Who else is playing in that? Let's see. There's Phil Knight Invitational and Phil Knight Legacy. Alabama and Michigan State are both in that. And then for the Legacy one, Duke plays Oregon State, and Gonzaga's in there too. And Purdue and West Virginia. So some good games probably coming up there. We'll see. Oregon is also in there. What happened to Oregon? Let's look at them. Beat Florida A&M. Good job. They took a beating to UC Irvine. That was not a good game for Oregon. Not in the slightest. UC Irvine came in and totally beat them down. This was a blowout. It was 52-28 at one point. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. But then they played Houston at home. Houston, of course, ranked 3rd in the country. And Houston took care of business. Houston won by 10. Yeah, Houston's been blowing out teams. It's going to be a while till they play somebody good, but now I do want to look at. I want to turn to the Maui tournament. That's actually going on right now. I'm currently watching the championship game between Creighton and Arizona. I do want to watch the end of that, but how have teams been doing in there? Hold on. So, of course, it started Monday. Creighton, of course, took down Texas Tech. A lot of ranked teams in this one. Creighton took down Texas Tech. I moved Texas Tech down a little bit because they did not do very well in this tournament. They, I think, went like 1-2. Where's Texas Tech? Moved them down to a 6. Arkansas beat Louisville, who might be the worst Power 5 team. They are just terrible. What else? We got San Diego State took down Ohio State. Where do I have San Diego State? 4. I definitely was impressed with a lot of teams in this tournament. Second round, Creighton took down Arkansas, top 10 matchup. That was a terrific game. Creighton winning that one 90-87. That was a wild game. So good win from them. And then Arizona took down San Diego State 87-70. So Creighton and Arizona have both been playing very well. Here's what I think I'm going to do. Where are they at? I think I have both of them at 3 seeds. Creighton at a 3, and I believe I also have Arizona. Yeah, Arizona at a 3. I'm going to say the winner of this game, I'm gonna move to a 2 seed, and I'm probably gonna move. What 2 seed are we gonna move down? Probably Gonzaga or Baylor, because they both have losses. But yeah, some very strong teams. Ohio State also looked pretty good. I know they lost to San Diego State in the opening round, but they beat Cincinnati and then took down Texas Tech. I took the liberty of moving Ohio State up a little bit to a 5. Might be a little aggressive, but you know what? We'll stick with it. We'll stick with them at a 5. There were a lot of teams that just haven't played anyone good. But since they haven't lost, they kind of have just gone up by virtue of teams in front of them losing, like Iowa. Purdue's one of those teams. Indiana, I guess, to a certain extent. Who else? Yeah, there are a lot of teams here that just kind of got moved up a little bit because UConn, also one of those teams. UConn's a very strong team. But yeah, that's all I got for Bracketology update. I'm not going to do picks. We can't do picks every episode. Next episode, we'll probably do picks, but no picks today. Little movement. A lot of teams rising, a lot of teams falling. That's where I have every team. Hopefully you got a good look at the bracket. I can do one more. I'll do one more slow scroll through for y'all, but hopefully y'all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.